Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is the case for the people of the state of Colorado versus James Egan Holmes, case number 12CR 1522. The record should reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys, Ms. Brady, Mr. King, Ms. Nelson, Ms. Spengler, and Ms. Higgs. The prosecution is represented by Mr. Brockler, Mr. Orman, Ms. Pearson, Mr. Edson, Ms. Stitch McGuire, and Mr. Edwards. We are outside the presence of the jury. Are the parties ready for the jury?
Yes.
Okay, let's... Yes.
Your Honor, when we were talking about instructions last night, the people made an objection to a particular paragraph in the mitigation instruction.
Yes.
We're withdrawing that objection.
Okay, great, thank you. And my research last night led me to believe also that the instruction was correct. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, I appreciate that. Okay, let's bring the jury in, please.
May I retrieve the exhibits?
Yes, you may. Sure. No, Craig. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury is now present in the courtroom. Good morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Okay, I hear that 3 of the 4 jurors who are sick are feeling better. So hopefully the 4th will start feeling better soon. And then I understand that the rest of you are still feeling okay. which is good news. That means you complied with my order last night, and I appreciate you doing that. Just a scheduling note, I am hoping to have the case to the deliberating jurors for deliberations, for Phase 2 deliberations, maybe sometime tomorrow. And so we're going to go ahead and take an hour for lunch today. We're going to take a short lunch. Is that okay with everyone? Is anybody not okay with that? Okay, great. That's what we'll plan to do. At the end of the day yesterday, Robert Holmes was on the witness stand, and he's still on the witness stand today. And I remind you, sir, that you're still under oath.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Brockler was in the middle of his cross-examination. And Mr. Brockler, you may now resume your cross-examination of Robert Milton Holmes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, where we left off is we had a discussion about the trip that you had taken with your family, including the defendant, over Christmas, and then he had returned to school. Does that sound about right?
That's right.
Now, after he returns to school, and consistent with sort of the frequency and type of communication that he'd had really since college, you continued to communicate mostly by email. Is that fair?
That's true.
And those emails would come once every couple weeks or so. Sometimes there'd be a couple follow-ups back and forth.
Yes, I guess that's.
You'd also agree with me, sir, that your wife tended to email the defendant perhaps more than you did.
Yeah, she actually communicated in general more.
Okay. I want to go through some of the communications that you had over that spring leading up to the shooting at the theater. One of the emails that you received, and I'm going to ask you if you recall this, about February 29th, you received an email from the defendant telling you two pieces of bad news. One, that...
I'm going to object. Can we approach?
Yes.
May I inquire, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Sir, I'm sorry. There was an email on February 29th that you received from the defendant giving you these two pieces of bad information. One, that his second lab rotation had gone poorly. Do you recall that?
I recall him saying that the professor got peeved or something to that extent.
Got peeved because one of his experiments failed to work. Is that right?
Actually, he didn't say the reason, so.
Okay. And that he also told you in that same paragraph email that his girlfriend had broken up with him. Do you recall that?
Yeah, I actually don't recall the exact email, but I recall that I recall finding out about that.
Would it help remind you of that email if you were able to see it again?
Yeah, definitely.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm showing counsel this is previously admitted People's TR 1227. May I find it for him, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Sorry. There we go. And sir, I'm handing you 1227. I've turned it to what I think is the email we're talking about. Would you take a look at that from February 29th and tell me if you recall that email from the defendant?
I don't recall, but obviously I got it, so yes.
Well, take a look at it and read it. Does that remind you of the email you had, or are you still
Yeah.
looking at it, you're not sure?
Yeah, I mean, it looks right.
Do you recall then, from having reviewed that, that in addition to telling you that one of his projects didn't work and the professor getting peeved that his girlfriend had broken up with him. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And that he finishes it off by saying, hey, it hasn't been the best of times.
Yeah, it hasn't exactly been the best of times lately.
Okay.
So,
But the email communications and the phone communications between you and him continue after that, even at about the same pace, you'd agree?
yes, I mean, I think every few weeks or a month.
So, for instance, on March 15th, the defendant had contacted you by email, which was his custom, to tell you that he had already filed his taxes and that he had claimed himself as a dependent. Do you recall that?
I actually don't. Is it in this packet?
Sir, it may be. Would you take a look? And they're in chronological order, if you don't mind.
What was the date? It was
March 15th, sir. It shouldn't be too far after that one.
yes. Okay, I've got that email. Yep.
Okay, and that's in that email, in addition to him telling you that he claimed himself as a dependent, he sort of, I guess creatively, or even maybe it was intended as humor, said that he really should be claiming himself as an independent, not so much as a dependent, since he's
Yes.
not allowing you to claim him. You agree
Right,
with that?
that's right.
Right. And again, these emails completely consistent with the kinds of communications that you had had even prior to this. Fair?
Fair.
I mean, he's not a long writer.
That's definitely true.
Then on March 28th, you get another email from the defendant discussing with you his retirement accounts, his Roth IRA. Do you recall that?
I do remember. Well, I do remember having conversations. I'll have to look up that email.
Sure, yes, sir. And tell me if that reminds you of that email that you received from him.
It must have gone on. Okay, I've got the March. Let's see. Yes, got that one. Okay.
And he even tells you, hey, look, I've even contributed $4,500 into my retirement account on March 28th. Do you see that?
I do.
And you recall from having sat here that that is 3 days after the G-chat he had with his girlfriend about this phrase, human capital. Do you recall that?
I don't remember all the dates, but okay, I believe you if you say that.
If you don't recall, sir, that's fine. That's fine. Now, then there's a discussion that you had with Miss Brady on direct examination about voicemails that you left your son trying to get a hold of him. Do you recall that?
I do.
And there were 4 of them. Do you remember?
Yep.
The first one that you left was on April 1st, 2012. Do you remember that one?
Yep.
Now, do you recall that also on April 1st, 2012, after you left that message, at about 6:45, the defendant emailed your wife back? Were you aware of that?
I wasn't.
The next message that you left to him was on April 29th. Do you recall us hearing that particular call?
Oh, the voicemail? Yes.
Yes, sir. And you recall April 29th was the date of that second voicemail that you read?
As I remember it from looking at the disc.
And if you don't remember, it'll be in that packet as well. Do you recall then that you received an email 2 days later from the defendant telling you that he'd tried to call you back on Sunday, but no one was there?
Okay. That would be
May 1st, sir. Sorry.
first.
Your Honor, may I have a moment to ask Ms. Brady something?
Yes.
Your Honor, forgive me. Do we still have the discs from yesterday's direct testimony, those messages that were left?
I'm sure we do. We may not have them in the courtroom. Do you need them? We can get them.
Candidly, Judge, the only thing I'm missing is the date of the third call. I know it was in May, but
I thought it was Memorial Day.
Memorial Day, was that the
Yeah,
third
that's
call?
what
Okay,
I thought.
that's plenty. Ma'am, I don't, thank you. I don't need that, thank you. All right, do you see that email?
Okay,
Do you
I
recall
see
getting that?
Yeah, called back on Sunday, but no one was there.
Okay. He also tells you in that email, though, when he tries to call you back, he's met a new lady friend. Do you remember that?
Yeah, asked out a new lady friend. She's a redhead from class. Went
And-
on a hike.
And based on the timing of that, and based on you having sat here through much of this trial, you believe that that's probably Miss Hillary Allen, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's Hillary.
He then also tells you in that email on May 1st that he finds school to be boring and that it is like a degree factory. Do you see
Yeah,
that?
this was kind of my first indication that he was unhappy with school. Except for the professor being peeved, there was a lab thing, so.
Right. Now, you'll recall also then that prior to Memorial Day, the defendant called your wife on Mother's Day. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but he usually did, so.
Do you remember having a conversation with your wife or anyone else about your son calling and wishing her well on Mother's Day?
I don't know, it was kind of expected. I mean, I think both Chris and Jim would always get in touch on Mother's Day.
There certainly wasn't anything unusual about the phone call that was brought to your attention.
No,
He then emails you on May 22nd to let you know when his preliminary exams are. Do you see that? Do you remember getting that email telling you that they were June 9th? Or, I'm sorry, June 7th, forgive me. Bless you.
oh, bless you. Got a May 22nd, is that the date?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Let's see. Yeah, prelims are on June 7th.
Okay, so then again, he emails you on June 9th, right after the prelims. Do you recall that?
Pardon me, when was the next date you were?
June 9th, sir?
Yes.
Now, what you may recall from having sat here through the trial is by that time, he's already been told by Professor Sukumar that he needs to retake the prelims because he didn't do well in them. Do you recall that?
Yes, I mean, I guess, yeah, after June 7th, I guess you knew that.
But then his email to you on June 9th says no such thing, does it?
That's certainly true. Yeah.
It says, not much news here, correct?
Yep.
And then he, I don't know, glad you got some brewskis in Australia, and then he references Foster's beer. Do you see that?
Yeah, I'd been on a business trip to Australia.
Again, at this point, there's just no sense of urgency here based on any of the phone calls or the emails that you have received consistent with how he's communicated with you over the years. Fair?
Well, they were getting a little briefer, but I'd say, yeah, it was even more brief.
They've gone from like 3 sentences to 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Then on June 11th, he then emails you to let you know that he didn't pass.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought.
Correct?
Yes, there it is, yep.
And by the way, that all of this is those last several emails are all after the the Memorial Day voicemail that you left that we listened to, correct?
Yes,
So he's still in touch with you, right? Yes?
yes.
And so then in that same email on June 11th, he also tells you he would like to avoid moving back in with you and your wife except as a last resort to homelessness.
Yes.
Then you called and we heard another voicemail that you left for him on June 12th, that next day. Remember that?
Yeah.
And are you aware that he continues to respond to both your emails and your wife's emails even after June 12th? Do you see that? And I'm sorry, forgive me, it won't be in there. It's in a different stack. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yeah.
You may.
Yeah, I've got a June 12th email is kind of the last one to me.
Okay. So he does email you on June 12th, correct?
Yeah, he gives me the alternate emails since he knows his, the school ones are going to be deactivated.
And to be clear, he's giving you the alternative ways to communicate with him. He's not just shutting you off once he closes down that email after quitting school. Fair?
Yeah, he just continues to.
And consistent with that, sir, do you remember that he does continue to communicate with you and your wife through those alternative emails?
Yeah, I guess, okay.
When you say,
Yeah, I mean, I think we did get additional emails. I'd have to see them to.
yes, sir, and I appreciate that. I'm showing counsel, Your Honor, 1081A.
E-TR-1081A?
Yes, sir, thank
And
you.
that's been previously admitted, correct?
Yes, sir, it has.
Okay,
May I approach the witness?
you may.
Now, sir, I'm handing you this only to ask you if you recognize that that was one of the email addresses that your son, the defendant, had given you prior to his departure from CU.
Yeah, he references the Gmail and the Hotmail accounts.
And which account is that one there? Is that the Gmail one, sir, on P-TR-1081A?
Google, so it's Gmail.
Okay, and I've flagged about 4 emails that took place
Okay.
in June. And if you take a look at those, I just want to ask you if you saw them or were aware of them, because they are all sent to your wife.
Yeah, I probably didn't see them.
Were you aware?
I'm sorry. Arlene may have told me about them.
That other email address was a Hotmail account. Do you remember that? D. Sherlock B at Hotmail?
Right.
And that's the one that you two continued to communicate with after he left CU. Do you remember that?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall those emails if I ask you about them, or do you need to see this again?
I would like to see them. if
Yes,
I
sir.
could.
I'm showing counsel, Your Honor, P-TR-347A, which has been previously admitted.
Okay,
May I approach the witness?
you may.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take a look at that, sir. And I've flagged 3 there. Those should all be 3 emails that appear to have been sent to you after the defendant quit school.
Okay, yes. You want me to discuss the content of any of them?
I'll ask you about them individually. I just wanted to see if you recognize them and remember them.
Yes, I do remember them.
Okay. And these were all emails, you'd agree, that took place after that last June 12th voicemail that we listened to in here?
Yes.
Now, take a look at the first one. The date of that one is it June 16th, sir?
Let me see. Actually, that one doesn't have a date at the top.
Oh, and it should be on the front page. Hotmail did some weird
this
thing.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it says 6/14.
So 6/14. And that was an email in which he responds to you and telling you that he's happy that you got over your cold and other type information. Is that fair?
Yeah, this one, yeah, right.
Now, at some point, you had suggested to him, either by phone or email or some way, you had suggested to him he might want to pursue unemployment.
Oh, yes.
Now, take a look at the next email that I've tabbed there, and can you tell me what the date of that is?
That says here. 6, June 20th.
And is it that June 20th one in which the defendant tells you that he had applied for unemployment, as you suggested, but he had been denied unemployment by the state?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And then there's another email after that one. And sir, what's the date of that one? And forgive me,
To July
12th.
July 12th.
All right, before we get to that one, I want to revisit the issue of the phone call on July the 4th. Okay, you had a conversation with your son on July the 4th where you talked about, I imagine, a whole bunch of different topics, maybe even including his departure from school and what his plans were.
Yes, I believe we discussed that.
What did he tell you?
You know, I don't remember we talked too much. Well, wait, on July 4th, yeah. I don't remember too much actually about the discussion itself. Arlene might have a better memory of it. It just seemed like it was how was he doing? I mean, I wasn't so focused on the content as just trying to determine whether he was depressed, and he didn't really seem so. Yeah, I don't know how much I remember too much about what we talked about. I mean, it's kind of the usual stuff, how he was doing in Colorado. Did he want to stay there? You know, I mean, there's kind of things like that.
Did you have any awareness at the time, sir, that the defendant called your wife on Mother's Day, May 17th, that was a week after he had already purchased a gas mask, 2 tear gas canisters, and attempted to buy a handgun online?
We obviously had no knowledge of any of his activities in regard to the shooting.
And is it fair for us to conclude, too, and I think the answer is yes, that all of these other emails that take
I
place...
would object to that comment that he suspects. The answer is yes. I think that's an improper comment during questioning.
I'm not sure what the question was, so let him ask the question and then we'll go from there. Go ahead.
That all of the subsequent emails we've been discussing, the ones after Mother's Day, that throughout all of those emails you never had an inkling of the arsenal that your son was amassing in his apartment in Aurora?
No, he didn't. He didn't tell us anything about what he was thinking of doing.
And after that phone call on July the 4th, again, you come away from it with no immediate sense of urgency, of needing to get out there that next day, nothing like that. Fair?
That's right. He certainly never mentioned anything about what was going on.
And in fact, on July the 12th, after you had, and I think your wife had proposed to him, coming out August 9th or 10th,
I think it was the 9th.
his response was, in essence, that's fine, I don't have any plans that
For
weekend.
that weekend, yep. I do remember that email.
And you now know that that was just 7 days before he would booby trap his apartment and head out to the theater.
Yes.
Couple last questions. Can we get, please, up on the screen, sir, the photo, and I don't know the number, sir, it was Defense Exhibit 3, the picture of him making the expression. See, and which one is this, sir? Sorry.
I think it's D-DR-371, but I'm not sure.
Well, sir, take a look at this. If it's not 371, we'll correct it. Thank you, sir. It looks like it's DTR 371. See this picture?
Yes.
This is a picture that you recognize as a booking photograph, correct?
I saw it somewhere in the news, and so.
Now, this particular picture right here does not look like he didn't anticipate this photo. This wasn't a surprise photo. This is one that clearly from the angle and the things that we can see in it, he knew this picture was going to be taken.
Judge, objection, speculation.
I don't know whether he can answer that question, so I'll sustain the objection.
Sir, can you tell from this if it looks like this was a surprise photo?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled. He's saying whether he can tell.
You know, I don't really know the conditions under which this photo was taken.
Fair. One, we don't know what he'd been doing prior to this in terms of sleep or other behaviors. Fair?
True.
In presuming it's a booking photo, you don't know if this was taken after he'd been medicated. Fair?
No, actually, I'm not sure. I don't. Actually, I was pretty sure this was taken before that.
And you don't know if, I'm sorry, sir.
Because
you
I'm
don't-
trying to remember when I think I first saw this picture, not too long after the crime.
And you don't know if this photo, well, and forgive me, he doesn't have red hair in this photo.
Yeah, so it's been a while since the crime, so.
You'd agree, too, that we don't know from this, you can't tell from this if this photo was taken after he'd been accused of 165 counts of murder and attempted murder.
I'm going to object to that.
Overruled.
Do you know, sir?
Depends on, I knew he'd been, accused of this crime, right? So this is after the shooting, so.
Understood. Thank you.
As,
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
I just don't,
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether it was before or after the formal accusation or anything like that.
Thank you. Sir, thank you. Final thing here. After the shooting, you are contacted by a member of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Do you recall that?
I had a couple contacts. There was one in the San Diego airport as I was going to Denver.
And during that conversation, that FBI agent asked you a series of questions about the defendant. Do you recall that?
I do recall that.
And in fact, one of the things that he spoke to you about was that phone call, that last phone call you had on July 4th. Do you recall that?
I don't actually recall much about what the investigator talked. I was sort of in shock or whatever. I don't know. So, but, okay.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
If he has notes to that effect.
And I won't ask you what he said. I'm going to ask you if you remember telling him that on that.
Judge, I object to hearsay.
Would counsel approach, please? The hearsay objection is sustained, but you may proceed as we discussed.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I was asking you about the July 4th phone call that you had with the defendant. Do you recall that?
Yes.
That phone call is one in which you came away from it feeling that the defendant seemed good and happy.
I don't know if he seemed happy. I'd always thought that he didn't seem like he was happy, but I didn't get the feeling he was depressed, right? I mean, I thought if he was depressed, he would not want to talk, not, but he didn't seem that way, so.
Do you recall talking with that FBI agent we sort of laid the foundation with shortly after you were notified of the shooting?
Sure.
And do you recall telling him, as you
Judge, I'm going to object. Improper foundation for impeachment.
Overruled.
He hasn't identified the agent, the date.
Sustained.
This was a conversation that you would have had on
July 20th.
July 20th, sir. Yes, thank you for that. And do you remember who the FBI agent was?
I'm sure he gave me a card, but
Can I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Gracious. Sir, I'm going to read you a couple names and ask if you remember these FBI agents. Justin Felig, F-E-H-L-I-G, Menolacino, M-E-N-O-L-A-S-C-I-N-O. Do you remember that name at all?
I didn't pay any attention to their names.
There's another one. James Harold Butler. Do you recall that at all?
No, but, okay.
Do you recall telling them on the 20th, after you were notified of this, in a description of the July 4th phone call, that you spoke with your son as a checkup, you wished each other a happy 4th of July, and you described him as, quote, seemed good and happy, end quote?
Okay. I could have said that, yeah.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
You may. All right. Ms. Brady, do you have any redirect?
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
Holmes, let's follow up with that statement to the FBI. That was at the airport?
Yeah, I was in the terminal waiting for the plane, and then a couple FBI agents approached me, and they took me down to a little conference room under the terminal.
So was it just hours earlier you heard that your son was accused of a mass shooting?
That's true.
What sort of frame of mind were you in when you got to the airport?
Yeah, it was kind of turmoil, so.
Were you trying to catch a flight?
Yeah, I was waiting for the plane.
Were you worried about your son?
Yeah.
Were you worried about your family?
Yes, everybody. Yeah.
Were you thinking very clearly at that point?
Probably not.
So right here, right now, do you believe that your son James was happy on 4th of July of 2012?
No, I mean, I'm trying to remember the conversation with the FBI agents, and from what I recall, they were interested in whether he had a history of violence, which he didn't, and then they were interested, I thought, whether he was a terrorist, which I told them I didn't think there was any chance he was a terrorist. And so that's the kind of thing I remember about that conversation. I don't remember saying, I could have said he was happy. I mean, I certainly, what I kind of meant was he didn't give any inkling that he was homicidal or stressed or anything, at least to us on the 4th of July.
And you described earlier how what seemed unusual about that conversation was that he had just quit school and that he didn't seem depressed and that he seemed very talkative, which was unusual for him.
Yeah, we were trying to decide whether to sort of go immediately or kind of go a little bit later, which was more easier for our schedules. And after that, it seemed like he was doing well enough. He didn't seem despondent in any way about dropping out of school. And in some sense, he even gave me the impression that it was, he thought it just didn't work out. And
Okay. Regarding those emails that Mr. Brockler went through with you, would you agree that in those emails, sometimes you'll write paragraphs, multiple paragraphs to Jim, and then he'll respond with 1 or 2 sentences?
That's typically the way it would go.
Okay, so you would get a response from him, but would it be as much information as you would like to have from your son who's away in college?
No, we'd obviously like to find out more about what's going on, but he would share some information.
Okay. But not as much as you were hoping to get?
True.
Do you know for sure when James was told that he didn't pass his prelims? Do you know whether it was June 9th or June 11th?
I don't know the exact dates, and I'd have to find out, I'd have to look back at these emails again to find out exactly when he told us. But
Okay.
it was shortly after.
So if James was actually told by Professor Sukumar on June 11th that he had not passed his final exams, that would have been the same date he told you?
Yes, I guess that's right.
That booking photo from the jail that you were shown, the one that looked like the face that you had not seen on Jim before December of 2011, do you remember seeing that photograph close in time to when you visited him at the jail for the first time?
That's hard. Actually, I don't really remember whether it was close in time or not. I just remember seeing that photo, and it just seemed to remind me of an expression he had.
Do you remember seeing that photo before he went to Denver Health Hospital in November of 2012?
That I still don't remember before or after.
Had your son experienced frustration and disappointments in his life prior to going to graduate school?
Well, yeah, of course, he didn't get into grad school the year before, so that was, I'm sure, a disappointment.
When he was rejected by all 5 or 6 of those graduate schools during that first round, did he react violently?
No, I mean, he seemed, I think he was very disappointed, but he seemed to accept it.
He didn't hurt anyone after that?
No, he wasn't violent, wasn't
He break
mean
anything?
or anything, so no.
Did he yell at anyone?
Nope.
Did he have any history at all of reacting violently if something didn't go his way?
No, he was not a violent person, at least until the event.
Mr. Brockler talked to you about whether you saw a change in Jim. I just want to make sure this is clear for the jury. When your son, James Holmes, was young, he was very social and very outgoing. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is that different than how he was in middle school and high school in San Diego?
Yeah, up through middle school, he always ran with sort of a pack of kids, and after middle school, he had much less. He did still have a few friends, but it was a much less interaction.
Did he go outside less often?
Yes.
Did he invite friends over to the house less often?
Yeah, almost never.
Did he go over to friends' houses himself less often?
Seldom, yeah. So.
And regarding Jim and Chris, is there any doubt in your mind that Jim cares for his sister Chris and that she cares for him?
No, I think they've certainly never been estranged or, not liking each other, and they've always been pretty close.
And although their paths have sort of gone in different directions as they get older, you believe they still love each other?
Oh, sure. I mean, in high school, everybody's doing different things. In college, you move away, so I assume that's why they had limited contact.
That's all I have, Mr. Holmes. Thank you.
Mr. Brockler, do you have any recross? You may.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena? Any objection? All right, sir, thank you. Call your next witness, please. You may. Ms. Brady?
Your Honor, can we play a couple more of the videotape testimony for the jury at this point?
Sure. All right, members of the jury, I remind you that as a result of some scheduling conflicts, there were witnesses who came here in advance of today or before today, and their testimony was audio and video recorded. You should treat the testimony the same way as if it had been presented live here in the courtroom. Does everyone understand that? And everyone saying yes and nodding their head yes. Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Gabriel Menchaca. It's a Gabriel Menchaca.
Ms. Hayes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Menchaca. How are you? Where, I understand you live in the greater LA area, is that right?
Yes.
What do you do for a living out there?
I work at an aerospace company as a inventory cycle counter.
Was there a time several years back that you were a camp counselor at a camp called Camp Max Strauss?
Yes.
What years would that have been for you?
I did 2008 and 2009.
Were those the only two times that you worked, the 2 years that you worked there?
Yes.
Was that a summer job?
Yeah, it was a summer job.
Okay. So before you got your position that you're doing now?
Yeah, that's years ago before.
Was there another camp counselor at the camp with you by the name of James Holmes?
Yes.
Do you remember which year it was?
I think it was 2008.
Okay. And do you recognize him sitting over here at council table with us?
Yes.
That's the James Holmes that was with you at camp?
Yes.
All right. I want to have you, that first year that you were at Camp Max Strauss, what was your position?
I was a counselor.
I want to kind of explain a little bit about how that position works and how this camp works. So tell me what age children were there at the camp?
I believe they were from 6 or 7 to 12 years old. That was a max 12 years old.
Were they broken up by age into different cabins?
Yes.
And how long would a group of kids be at the camp with you?
There was, it was about from Sunday, we picked them up on Sunday to Thursday, and out of the whole summer there was two sessions that were actually 2 weeks, non-stop for 2 weeks.
So you had a number of sessions that were about 1 week and then a couple that were 2
Yes,
weeks?
I believe it was 5 sessions that were 1 week, and there was 2 sessions that were 2 weeks.
Where would these kids come from that would come to your camp?
They were from all around the area, Los Angeles area.
Do you remember sort of what the mission was of the camp, what the goal was with these children?
Just basically just make them have a good time, enjoy the summer. Some of them, there was their first time there, so you kind of wanted to make it the best summer for them as you can.
Were some of these kids socially disadvantaged kids?
Yes, there was a lot of emotionally disturbed kids. A lot of kids that went through a lot at a young age. So before we would start the session, we would get their reports, and we could see each kid's report and see what they're basically, what they've been through, what have they done, what can they not eat, what can they, can they swim, can they not swim. So basically that's what we kind of knew what their situation was.
As a camp counselor, are you assigned to a specific cabin?
Yes.
Or dorm, I guess?
Yeah, cabin.
And are you the only counselor assigned to the cabin?
There's 2 counselors
Okay.
and a activity person. Basically, there's an activities for each, like football, sports or anything like that. So they kind of actually take over the cabin as well, certain times.
Does the activities person live in the cabin with you and the kids?
No, they're separate. They have their own separate living. Other than us, we're with the kids, 2 counselors.
So 2 counselors 24/7 with your group of how many kids?
I think it ranged from up to 10 kids for 2 counselors, and there was a certain time where you had an hour off at the end of the night or 2 hours, and that's when the advisor, the director would come and take over for the kids.
Would you say that for most of that week that they're with you, you are with them?
Yes.
Now, you talked about getting sort of the reports on the kids at the beginning of the week. Would you and your then kind of co-counselor get together and come up with a plan?
Yeah, you would kind of see what kind of kids you're going to deal with during the week. And you kind of, based on, okay, you could get a kid that's might be scared of sleeping in the dark or something. We kind of have to kind of think about where we're going to put him. Okay, maybe we can put him on this bed so that he can be in the light or something like that. So we kind of did get together and discuss our cabin kids.
Okay. And I just want to be clear, you were not in the same cabin with James Holmes, is that right? He was in a different cabin?
Yes, he was.
I want you to walk me through a typical day as a camp counselor with your kids.
Well, basically, you just wake up in the morning. There's a certain time we have to be up. Then we get the kids ready, brush your teeth, wash your face, do what they have to do. Then we would get them ready, and then we would meet at the circle about, it could be 8 o'clock in the morning before breakfast in cabins. And we sat in cabins and sang songs, and then we had breakfast, and then after breakfast, we would go back up and have them clean their cabin, do their daily things. And then once after that, we would report to our first activity. We had a schedule that we had to follow, and we report to the first activity.
What kinds of activities would those be?
We had sports, arts and craft, drama. We had archery, horseback riding, all kinds of dance. So we had all kinds of activities.
Was there like a petting zoo with the animals?
Oh yes, I think there was a little farm we had, a little petting zoo.
So after the morning activity, then you would go and off and do that with your own group of kids and your co-counselor?
Yes.
Then what would happen?
After your activity, we had 2 activities, and then after that we have a snack, and then after that we would go to our room, and they would take an hour break, and then go to lunch. And then we'll go to take more activities, and then after that they relax again, and you go take dinner. After dinner you get ready, have something, if it's cold, get something warm, put some jackets on, sweater, and then we'll go to our daily activity, which was in the afternoon, where everybody got together.
Okay, was that after dinner?
Yes.
So there's at least 3 or 4 points actually during the day that all the kids and all the counselors get together, and that would be circle in the morning.
Yes.
Circle, which leads into breakfast.
Yes.
The lunchtime.
Yeah, lunchtime and then dinner.
Dinner, and then the after dinner activity.
Yes, and then in between there would be times where they would tell us to meet up in the circle, and we would meet up and do a couple songs, and then head out.
So even though you weren't paired with James Holmes in a cabin, you did have a lot of opportunity to see his interaction, as you did with the other counselors, interaction with all the kids.
Yes.
Now, is there also an orientation that goes along with your job there?
Yes. Every summer before we start the summer, there's a week-long orientation. We learn about all the rules and all the cans and can't do's and yes, and then certain situations, and that's just counselors and directors and leads and all the people. We just basically just counselors. We do a lot of activities. We do a lot of activities that we're going to do with them. We do a lot of role playing and see what's going to happen, what happened in this situation. So it was a week long.
And about how many counselors were at the camp and attended that orientation?
Well, I know there was 2 per cabin, and there was, I believe, about 7 or 8 cabins for the males and for the females. So they could have been maybe about more than 40 people, including, we're talking about from all the cooking, the cleaning people. Everybody was part of that orientation.
Okay. And then who was your supervising counselor? Was that Kevin?
It was Kevin.
Okay. You're going to approach, and I'm approaching with, let me stand away, D-TR, these have already been introduced, D-TR-245, 246, 247, 248, and 249.
Yes, you may
Thank you.
approach.
And if you can take a look at these photos, Mr. Menchaca. And are those photographs sort of around the camp,
Yes.
All right, if we can start with the first one, and can you tell me the number in the bottom corner, because I'm terrible at remembering.
245.
245.
Yes.
What is that a picture of?
This is a picture of the circle where we met up every morning or in between the day to do our songs and announcements, stuff like that. This is where we met up.
Is that sort of the center of camp?
Yeah, that's like the center where all the cabins are at and all the counselors and everybody.
I understand the camp was fairly large in acreage, but like all of the land, but the buildings and stuff were all centered in the same spot.
Yeah, except the females' cabins. They're a little bit more towards the field. But it's close. Everything's close by.
And if you can flip to the next photo, and what number is that one?
246.
And what is that a picture of?
This is a picture of 2 cabins.
Are those the cabins that you would have been staying in with your kids?
From what it looks like, I'm not really, but yeah, it looks like Seminole.
You were in Seminole cabin?
Yes, I was in Seminole cabin.
Okay. And if you can go to 247 and tell us what that's a picture of?
This is Cheyenne.
Was that the cabin that Mr. Holmes was in?
Yes.
Are all the cabins pretty much very similar?
Same, same.
Is that 248 now?
248, yeah, it's a picture of the cabin. Yeah, this is how it looks. It's set up for all where the kids sleep.
So the inside of it?
Yeah, the inside of the cabin.
Okay. And they have beds and lockers?
Yeah, they have beds and they do a little shelf where they can put their stuff.
And I'm assuming then you, as the counselors, would also be sleeping on one of those beds?
We had each corner, there was 2 doors in each cabin. I was in one corner and my co-counselor was in the other corner.
Okay. And what's the next photo there?
249.
And what's that a picture of?
This is, I think, was a little hall, or a little space where I guess the dance, I think we had dance there.
Okay.
That's where we gather at the end and watch some photos and videos.
And then is that back to the beginning?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. You can just leave those there on the table. You said that some of these kids are emotionally disturbed. Can it be frustrating and difficult to work as a camp counselor with these kids 24/7?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. I want to now have you sort of describe what you saw about James Holmes, sort of his personality and his demeanor. Overall, how would you say he was? Was he loud and rambunctious, crazy guy, happy, shy?
He was shy.
Yeah.
Wasn't the type that he would go up to you and talk to you or start a conversation. Kind of just a little reserved.
When you would talk to him, would he respond?
Yes,
Was he polite?
yes, he was a nice guy.
Okay. Now, with regard to the students or the kids, how did he act with the kids?
He acted normal. I mean, he was, you could tell when he interacted with him, and if it was, one-on-one or the whole group, he participated in all the activities.
Did you ever see him get frustrated or upset with the kids?
Never.
Okay. With regard to activities, I understand there was a point at the end of each week with your groups that you would all come together and you as the counselors would have to get up and say, the positive things about each kid.
Yeah, there was a certain as on Wednesdays, the day before they go back, we all met up at this, on the upper mountain. There was like a little, what do you want to say, like a little fire pit. And then every kid would get a pine cone. We would go on top of the front of the circle, and then all the kids would hug with the counselors and kind of just let the memory of what the whole week was. And then each counselor would have to get up and say something about their week and how was it and what did they enjoy, what they're going to remember. So it was a very tough moment because a lot of the kids were crying and you just get attached to them. So they just throw the pine cone in the fire and then we just head back to our cabin. And that's our last night. So.
And James was able to participate in that. I think you said he was kind of shy about it, but he was good.
Yes, he did. It had to be either. It couldn't be always the same counselor. If it's two of us, it couldn't be always the one that was always talking. So we both had to switch off, whether it's weeks, but yeah, everybody did.
Overall, would you say that James participated with his kids in the activities?
Yes.
That he could be smiling with them?
Yes.
That he was caring of them?
Yeah, definitely.
And he did his job well as a camp counselor?
From what I saw, yeah. I mean, yeah, he was. In order for you to be there the whole 7 weeks, you had to be able to not get frustrated, enjoy it, be enthusiastic about it. So.
And he was there the whole summer?
Yeah, he was.
I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you for your time.
Do you have any cross-examination, Mr. Horner?
Just a couple, Your Honor, thank you. Sir, when's the last time you saw the defendant?
2008.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Is there any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, sir.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Ms. Brady, for the record, what disc number was that?
$3293.
We'll offer it as D-TR-375.
375? Okay, so D-TR-375 was just published to the jury. That was just a video recorded testimony containing that disc was just played for the jury. That's D-TR-375. Do you wish to publish the exhibits that were admitted through that witness at this time?
Briefly, please.
Okay, you may do so.
We can get D-TR, this is the circle, 245. These are the cabins, 246. This is Mr. Holmes' cabin, Cheyenne, 247. This is the inside of the cabins, 248. And the conference center, the hall, 249.
All right, thank you. And those are all D-TR-exhibits that were admitted through the witness whose testimony was just played for the jury. Do you want to?
Your Honor, I think they were actually previously admitted through a witness, Kevin Wright.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Brady, do you want to play another one? And what number is the one that you want to play now?
D-TR-379.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you.
we're going to change that to what we're going to call Ina Maskson, please.
Okay. Good morning.
Right?
It's all right.
Hurt my knee.
Oh, okay. Could I have you raise your right hand, please, so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Ina Perry Maston. Sorry. INA DIRIE MASTEN.
You seem to may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Maston.
Good morning.
Can you tell us where you live?
I live in Rancho Pañasquita, which is a suburb of San Diego County.
Okay. What do you do for a living there?
I'm an accountant.
And where do you work?
I work part-time at the church. I have clients that I service.
What church are you referring to?
Pañasquita's Lutheran Church.
How long have you been working at Peñasquito's Lutheran?
A little over 3 years.
Prior to working there, did you also attend that church for many years?
I did for over 20 years.
And you continue to attend it while you're working there?
I do.
All right. Do you know a family, the Holmes family?
I do. I know Arlene and Bob Holmes.
Okay. You've also met on a couple of occasions James Holmes, is that right?
I have.
I would like to ask you how it is that you came to meet Arlene Holmes.
Arlene and I met through church, through several events that we had there, and then we both joined a book club that meets every 2 months. And additionally, about 4 years ago, we carpooled off and on for about 3 years to work in that.
When was it that you first met her?
About 10 years ago.
And that was, at that time when you first met her, it's my understanding that she was attending the church as well as her 2 children. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they both were.
And are you aware that James, and just so we're clear, I see you looking here at council table at him. This is James Holmes that you knew?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Are you aware that he was confirmed through that church?
I don't believe he actually was.
Okay.
I think I thought that he was, but he really wasn't.
Okay. Do you recall him attending church much in his sort of later teenage years?
Not really. I mean, off and on.
Yeah.
You know, I might see him and his sister around, but more Arlene all the time and Bob.
Okay.
So in the last few years.
When you were carpooling with Arlene and going to book club with Arlene, can you describe what your impression was of her with regard to her family and her children?
We would just talk about everyday things and everyday life, and part of that, includes your family, and it was pretty much pretty normal, just kids growing up and exploring life and going off to college or, pursuing other things in their life. So nothing out of the ordinary, the thing that my other friends weren't experiencing with their children at that time in their life.
Mm-hmm. Did she appear to you to be to show appropriate concern and love for her family?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They both were very involved in their kids' lives, and definitely, yeah.
When you say they both were very involved, do you mean both Bob and Arlene?
Yeah, both Bob and Arlene. They would go the extra mile for some things. Like, for example, one is that Arlene's daughter wanted to track for American Idol, and so she took a whole weekend off and drove up to Pasadena and spent time with her daughter doing all of that. That was a big commitment, I think, as a parent.
You also, I understand, you have every year open house Christmas parties at your home.
I do.
Did the Holmes family ever attend those parties?
Yeah, Bob and Arlene come on a regular basis, and from time to time, one or both of the children would come.
And when the children would attend that, was that a number of years ago?
Well, yes, it was a number of years ago.
Okay. Did James ever come with his parents to your home?
Yeah, I do recall him coming at least once, if not twice, yeah.
Okay. What was your impression of him when he attended those open house parties?
A shy, reserved young man, but not uncomfortable in a social setting.
Okay. Do you recall what years it was? Would that have been before he went off to college when he was?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And he would kind of stick around with his parents the whole time. Is that reasonable to say?
I'd say a lot of the time, but not all of the time, because we have like food everywhere, inside and outside of the house, and so people mill around. It's truly an open house. So, he would wander around a little bit and gather food and all that. So, I didn't notice that he was stuck next to them the entire time.
Okay. Just a minute, and I'll be right back with you. Have you continued to be friends with the Holmes family?
Absolutely.
Even to this day?
Yes, even to the day.
Okay. And is it important for you to be here to support the entire Holmes family?
Absolutely, yeah. We wanted to make sure everybody understood how much we support the family as individuals and as a community. It's very important.
And that includes James as well?
Absolutely includes James, yeah.
Thank you.
Is there any cross-examination?
I don't have any questions for this witness, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be released from her subpoena?
Yes, you may.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you.
Your next witness, please, Ms. Brady. The record should reflect that we just finished playing D-TR-379. Do you have another one that you want to play before the morning break?
Yes, Your Honor. The testimony of Patrick Silva, which we'll submit as D-TR-373. And just so the record is clear, we are admitting these discs into evidence.
I'm admitting them, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, you may proceed. Thank you.
Your Honor, we call Patrick Silva.
Good morning. Could I have you raise your right hand so I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names.
My name is Patrick Kenneth Silva. It's Patrick. Silva, last name Silva.
Ms. Higgs.
Thank you. Mr. Silva, I notice that you speak a little quickly and quite softly, so if you could make sure you slow it down a tiny bit and speak right to the microphone so we can make sure we get everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Silva, where do you currently live?
I live in San Jose, California.
And what's your occupation? What do you do for a living?
I'm studying chiropractic at Palmer College of Chiropractic.
Oh.
Right now in the last
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Speak right into the microphone, if you will, please, and slow down, okay?
I live in San Jose, California, and I am currently studying chiropractic at Palmer College of Chiropractic.
And you said you're doing an internship currently?
I am an intern. I am in my last year of school.
So you're attending classes as well as working, really?
Correct.
Okay. I would like to ask you if you know a person by the name of James Holmes.
Yep.
Okay. Do you recognize him here sitting at council table with us?
Yeah. It's Jimmy.
Okay. How do you know him?
We went to, I think, middle school and high school together. I definitely remember him from playing sports. We played rec basketball in Rancho Paisitos basketball league. And later in high school on the JV soccer team for a couple of years.
You said Rancho Paisitos. Where is that located?
It's in California, in San Diego.
Okay. San Diego County? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Do you know if you attended the same middle school?
I can't remember.
But you do remember playing recreational sports with him during that age?
Correct.
And how old then were you? What's the age of middle school?
I was 14, 13, 14, 15.
Somewhere in that age range?
And then high school starts at, I think, 14, 15.
Okay. So sort of grades 6 through 8 is middle school?
And yes, and 6 through 8, correct.
Okay. If you can tell us specifically with regard to that time period, what if anything you remember about playing sports with Mr. Holmes?
Well, as a teammate, I remember him well in JV soccer. That's where we spent most of our time together, in the backfield on defense.
Let me ask you this. When you say JV soccer, was that in middle school or was that in high
This
school?
was high school.
Okay. So are your stronger memories of him from high school?
Correct.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Okay. So I remember a very funny, very sweet, quiet kid, and kind of flew under the radar, didn't cause a lot of trouble at all. That's another reason why in the previous years that we played sports together, I just remember him from the team. We didn't really hang out afterwards, nor did I with really any of the kids. You kind of go, you play your sport, and then you go back to whatever it is the next sport is. So, I remember him best because from JV soccer, because we're on the backfield together in basketball or in cross country or whatever other sports we did together. It's kind of, you're running by each other, but we were on defense together, so we're sitting there. We had a good offense, and we just spent, the better part of 90 minutes in the same location within, 10, 20 feet of each other.
So with the basketball, the rec basketball that you played in middle school, were there any social activities that the teams did, like after the games, or it was just kind of you show up and you play and then that's that?
It was show up and play. There were very few any sort of parties and stuff afterwards. I do remember him being a really great basketball player.
Okay.
Kind of on par with how I felt about myself. I have respect for him in the sports room, for sure.
Was he a good teammate on the basketball team?
Absolutely, yeah.
How would you describe his demeanor when he played basketball?
Ready to win.
Okay. Was he a good loser if you guys didn't win?
Oh, we didn't win a whole lot. We weren't on the most competitive of teams. I think 1 year we did win a lot, but it's mostly, it's rec leagues, mostly for fun. There were competitive leagues, along with competitive soccer leagues, but I mostly remember him from rec. And again, that's why we were on JV. We mostly just like to play and not be terribly too good at the sport when we're not having fun.
So when you're talking about JV, you're talking again about soccer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I remember him from best. I can speak to that better.
Was he a good teammate?
In soccer?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And same as in basketball?
Well, a different sport, yes.
Yeah.
But, it's a different attitude you kind of bring to the field. In basketball, it's very fast-paced. Mm-hmm. And it's 5v5 on a small court. In soccer, we could, sit down and pick flowers off the field for the most part.
So with the ball, right? If the ball's at the other end of the field and your offense is taking care of it, you have more time in soccer to communicate with them and
Absolutely.
hang out with them.
There's a lot more interaction, and it's not just throw the ball to each other on opposite sides of the small court. So.
Tell me, you said this is a JV team, so it wasn't highly competitive. Did you guys have fun playing?
Absolutely. I thought we did, and I remember him being a really great defender. I started off as a midfield because I was faster, and then just because I don't practice ball handling skills, I think I prefer defense. Mm-hmm. And so I was moved to defense, and I remember James being on defense along with a couple other people that were with us, for a couple of years. And I probably known them from other sports as well. So we all got along, and we all had the same goal in mind, to make sure that the person doesn't get by us, and we were very good at that. And we all had each other's backs. We didn't start any fights. We were just very quick to get to the ball. And Jimmy, I remember being very quick and not afraid of, like let's say there was a bigger forward or somebody who, slid tackled and, did some kind of cheesy stuff. Still wasn't afraid of it. Got to the ball, got it out of there, and we went back to, just doing our thing back there.
Okay. You said that if there was another player coming up that made slide tackle or something like that, are those, for the level of soccer that you were playing, were those inappropriate behaviors on the field?
For those who don't know or understand soccer, slide tackling is where you come in sliding and you use your cleats against the other person's legs to either take the ball away or hurt the other individual, and that's kind of frowned upon.
Is that something that Jimmy would ever initiate?
Well, ever is a strong word. I think every once in a while it's necessary to get to the ball first. Like if you're just a few feet away and you can't get there physically and be there with the ball to handle it, you're going to slide and kick it out. But a lot of forwards are in soccer not they'll use anything they can, any advantage they can. As a defender, you have to be prepared for that. And again, I said it's kind of looked down upon, and it can be very frightening for a defender that's not used to it because you get intimidated easily and you kind of just let them by. But that wasn't something that Jimmy did, and that's something that I appreciate because I didn't do that either, nor did any of my other defenders. If someone was being overly aggressive on the other team, you would either back that person up, not to fight, but to handle that person appropriately. Like let's say, for instance, I needed to get to a ball and a defender, or one of the forwards got past all the midfield and really only last line. I would go approach the ball. The forward may be better at handling the ball and he gets to my right. Jimmy would be there. We were very cohesive and, like I said, of the same goal in mind. So we worked very well together.
Would you say that he was a good team player on the field?
I would, absolutely. I had nothing bad to say about him on the field, and I didn't give my respects, willy-nilly. He's one of the players that I do remember because of his goals were not his own goals, but they were, the team's goals. And he was, as you said, a great team player.
Would you say that he was the kid on the field that wanted all the attention or wanted to hog the ball or anything?
Hardly. That would be the forwards.
Okay.
And to be serious, that I wouldn't have been able to describe him like that at all. There was no aggression outside of needing to get the ball and get the ball off the field. There was no holding a grudge when somebody did slide tackle you. Just kind of like move on. I think that's their own problem. It wasn't reactive. It was proactive, I would say.
Wasn't a showboater?
No, not at all. There's no dancing on the field when you kicked the ball or got, a lot of times because Jimmy and I were both very quick, if we didn't have an opportunity to pass, we would just take the ball off the field by ourselves. And there's some glory in that, but this wasn't a ball hog sort of thing. This was a team-oriented sort of thing. So.
What about sort of his, did you have any social interaction with him through JV soccer or not?
Just on the field.
Just on the field.
Yeah. So at school we didn't run in the same circles, and it wasn't like a clique type of thing. It was mostly just my best friend ran in a completely different circle than I did, just because of the classes that he was taking. He was in band and whatever. But I don't know where Jimmy was. I think he was taking AP courses, and I wasn't in those. So we just weren't, really doing anything other than passing each other in the hallways.
Do you recall him ever being mean outright mean to any of the other players on the team, or?
No, I think you're getting at like bullying, and that would be, that's the opposite. I think the character that I judged, he was more defensive of people being bullied, for instance, on the field. There would be an overly aggressive player, something I do remember many instances where he would, step in and beat up, front line because he, had the speed or the technique or whatever it is, but if someone else is getting bullied, he wasn't afraid to go over there. He just seemed like a strong individual. As quiet as he was, because you wouldn't even, think that would come out of him. He just seemed very shy and timid, and occasionally he'd crack like kind of out of the corner of his mouth joke and kind of look around and see if everyone got it. He's very intellectual like that.
When he was on the field, would you describe him as kind of present and focused on the game?
Absolutely.
And you said that, did he have, I understand it's JV, it's not super competitive soccer, but would you say that he was appropriately intense when he was on that field and playing that game with you guys?
Yeah, I think he gave as much as was needed in those circumstances, and really nothing more, nothing less.
Okay.
But I wouldn't describe my own actions any different than his, and that's probably why I respect him so much, is that he played a very similar game.
Just now, 1 second.
Sure.
Mr. Silva, I don't have any other questions for you. I appreciate you coming in and sharing with us.
Do the people have any cross-examination? Mr. Edson?
Just one or two, if I may, Judge.
Yes?
Mr. Silva, did you keep in contact with the defendant after high school?
I did not.
Did your JV soccer, did that go into the senior year, or was that earlier in your high school career?
I don't recall. I think it was the later 2 years.
Just have no further questions. Thank you.
Is there any redirect?
No, sir.
May Mr. Silva be released from his subpoena?
Yes, he may.
Any objection?
No, thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished showing the testimony recorded in D-TR-373. All right, members of the jury, it's 10 after 10, so it's time for our morning break. Please make sure you abide with all my admonishments during the break, and I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. Is there anything that we need to talk about on behalf of the people?
No, sir. Thank you.
Anything on behalf of the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, enjoy your break. I'll see you back in 20. Thank you.